Greetings, friends. What you're about to hear is not a Dear Mr. X letter, to which I'm sure you've grown accustomed. This came from a conversation I had which quickly turned into a bit of a live interview with a friend of mine. He used to live in my neighborhood until very recently. His name was Gabriel. So, today, I thought I would try telling you the story rather than reading it from the perspective of the person who lived it. Let me know how you enjoy this style, and I'll do it this way every so often. And don't forget, if you don't like it at all, don't be shy. Let me know in the comments section below. So anyway, one evening, Gabriel and I were talking when the topic of discussion meandered into the territory of the strange, a thing that's quite common when I talk to people, as I'm sure you would probably guess. As the key words began to pop up, ghosts, vampires, dogmen, glitches, etc., I noticed a peculiar spark of familiarity, of passion in his eyes that told me without a doubt he himself had seen something or another in his time. Gabriel was a native of Costa Rica. He grew up most of his life there before immigrating to the United States. When I asked him if he had ever seen anything odd, his eyes widened. "Yes, I did," he said, half excited, half under his breath. "Have you ever heard of cadejos?" I had not. As he spoke, I ran an image search of the Spanish word. Gabriel's eyes shifted, almost looking past me as he recounted the story of a dark night in San Jose, Costa Rica, when he was only 10 years old. He lived with his mother, father, and older brother, Miguel, in a small suburb called Las Animas, meaning City of Lost Souls. The family home was a brand new construction on a street with only 2 houses that were separated by several empty lots. Gabriel's father was a metalworker, so he made sure his home was fortified with steel doors, door frames, and window bars to withstand the high crime rate of the small town. The small backyard was walled in to make it less attractive to robbers, and they had a Doberman guard dog named Rambo to keep watch when the family was out. The dog had to be trained to only accept food from Gabriel's father, because thieves in the area were known to try to feed poison to guard dogs. In that neighborhood, there was typically an unspoken curfew for children after dark. If they were away from home and not with their parents, or didn't have a ride home, they were basically to stay the night wherever they were, just to be safe. So one night, Gabriel and his brother Miguel were over at their friend Carlos's house, who happened to live in the only other house on their street. They ended up staying until just after nightfall, but they really wanted to go home anyway. The 2 brothers debated with Carlos and his mother about walking home. Although both houses were extremely well lit with floodlights, there was about 75 yards of unlit dirt road and knee-high grass between them. Now, they had made the trek into darkness before, but always with their mother waiting outside keeping an eye on them. This time she was nowhere to be seen, making the boys feel a bit more apprehensive. As their debate continued, their mother finally stepped out and began to wave at them to come home. When they saw her, the boys started on their way at a jog, turning back to say goodnight to Carlos and his mother as they went back inside. But that is where things got weird. When the boys turned back to look at their mother, she was gone. What they saw instead, standing across the street in the middle of a field, a ways up the road toward them, was a dog. The boys slowed down to a walk as their old tennis shoes scraped across the unpaved, overgrown road. They stared at the dark figure in the distance, trying to decipher it. They could tell it was a dog. No surprise. They had one, but it looked far too large and imposing to be their Doberman. They noticed the glimmer of a thick chain wrapped around the dog's neck. The eerie sound of the metal rattling permeated the night air. For a moment, they told themselves it was just Rambo. Maybe he broke free of his chain and got out. The brothers argued over whether or not it was their own dog as they walked steadily toward the house. The closer they got to where the mysterious dog was, the more they noticed that it seemed to be growing in size. When they finally realized that what they were looking at was not their beloved Rambo, the 2 young boys halted in their tracks. Gabriel looked up at Miguel. As we sat in my studio, Gabriel's eyes began to well with tears. He said that despite all the trouble they'd gotten into, that moment was the first time he'd ever seen his big brother scared. They didn't know it at the time, but what they were seeing, the thing that was watching them, was a cadejo, what you and I might call a hellhound. The black dog shifted its ominous gaze between the boys and their house, looking back and forth over and over, as if acknowledging that at any moment they were going to have to make a run for it. It stood as an imposing wall between them and safe haven. The boys knew that they were too far to make it back to Carlos's house without being caught, but that continuing down the road felt like certain death. Their best chance was to walk back the way they came. They slowly turned and started back when they heard their front door open. Their mother emerged from the doorway with her hand shielding her eyes from the floodlights. Throwing their fears to the wind, the brothers made the only decision they could. They broke into a sprint, running harder than they ever had before to save their mother. The hound's head shot toward her as it catapulted its massive body into the air, leaping at least 30 feet in one terrifying motion before violently slamming into the ground and beginning its own mad dash toward the house. The beast cut a wide path through the tall weeds of the field. The loud metallic sounding of the chains intensified as it closed in. Somehow, the boys were able to get to their mother before the hound, grab hold of her and pull her inside. They slammed the door behind them. Their mother stood against the wall in a state of disbelief, praying as the front door trembled with blow after blow from the enraged monster outside. After only a few moments of excruciating terror, the noise suddenly stopped, replaced by a loud car horn blaring from outside the garage. Gabriel's father yelled at them to activate the metal-clad garage door. Miguel hit the switch to open it, and was promptly scolded by his father for letting the dog outside. Gabriel and Miguel opened the front door and looked around, finding no signs of El Cadejo. As they continued to investigate, they found poor Rambo cowering in fear, hiding in a small crawl space underneath the stoop of their porch. As I wrapped my head around this intriguing story, jotting down notes on my computer as quickly as I could, Gabriel's face lit up at my clear fascination with the experience. He told me, "You know what?" using my real name. "I have another story for you. Have you ever heard of La Llorona?" I told him I did, but that, my friends, is a story for another time. Greetings, friends. So, what did you think about the story? I've heard of hellhounds before, but I always find it fascinating to hear a concept that's bled into another culture, that's placed its own sort of unique spin on it. I encourage you to look up the word cadejo, spelled Cadejo, and see some of the depictions of that beast for yourself. Needless to say, it's not the type of thing you want to encounter at any age, let alone the tender age of 10. A big thanks to my dear friend Gabriel. Here's to you, brother, wherever you are. You'll be hearing the other story of his another time. Not to worry, though. It'll probably be sooner than you think. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe and share it with your friends. It's the only way for me to grow. I'm Mr. X, and may your nights be full of dreams. P.S. Remember that other time I spoke of? Well, actually, it's right now. You didn't really think I was going to leave you hanging with the story of La Llorona, did you? This is a short one, but I wanted to test your loyalty. Only those who have the will to stay until the very end will hear this little bonus story. So if you're here, congratulations. And by the way, don't spoil anything in the comments about this. Let's just keep this between you and me. I'll give you a code word to let me know if you've heard the story. A few years after the Hound incident, Gabriel and Miguel were walking home late one night after a few games of basketball. There was a rough court just about a quarter-mile away from their house where kids used to gather. Yet again, the boys had made the mistake of staying out after dark, so they were walking home with a bit more motivation than usual. Like most areas in their town, there were no streetlights. The only illumination they had in the area came from a nearby hospital. Their journey took them past a small bridge over a creek. It was out of their way, so they usually just walked right past it. But on this night, they heard something odd coming from that direction. The sorrowful wails of a woman emanated from the dark area near the side of the bridge. Miguel insisted that they go and see what was going on, but Gabriel had a stomach-turning feeling that something was wrong and he refused to follow his brother. Miguel began to meander toward the bridge while teasing his little brother about being scared. So eventually, Gabriel half-heartedly relented and veered slightly in the direction of the bridge as well. The pitiful screams still rang out, causing Miguel's playful demeanor to shift, thinking that there may actually be someone there who needed help. He picked up speed and ran up to the guardrail, looking around for a girl who was perhaps in danger. As Miguel leaned over to investigate, all Gabriel saw was his brother's body tense up with shock, almost falling backward before darting away and down the dark street. Not needing any more convincing, Gabriel followed suit, and the brothers made the last 10 blocks home in record time. Later, Gabriel asked his brother what he saw. He said there was a woman in the water just below the bridge. She reached up to him with long arms, saying, "Ven aquí, ven aquí. Come here." Gabriel told me that the entity they encountered was called La Llorona, a famous legendary figure in Hispanic culture with many variations, the most common being that she's the apparition of a woman who lost her children in a river and now haunts waterways, bringing misfortune or even death to anybody who sees or hears her. Some accounts even claim that she drowned her own children in a river, and then herself. Either way, a sad story indeed. Thanks again for listening, my friends. When I say you guys are the best, I truly mean it from the bottom of my heart. So thank you. If you made it this far, find a way to work the word "massive" into your comment, so I know. Try not to spoil anything. I really want to see who my true ride or die followers are. Until next time, friends. Signing off.